Okay, so we're diving into some pretty heavy stuff today.
Yeah, no kidding.
This document we got, The Rise of the Chaos Lords, Balance Reforged.
Right.
It's not like just some fringe theory, you know?
Hmm.
This reads like a legit, like almost historical account
Oh, absolutely.
of like a total shakeup of how power works
Yeah.
in the galaxy.
Yeah, and not just like a shift in who's in charge or anything.
Yeah.
This is like a fundamental reimagining of the Force itself.
And what it means to have power
Yeah, exactly.
in this context. So we're talking about Bugsy Prime and Bloody Duff.
The Chaos Lords, right?
Yeah, these Chaos Lords and this whole chaos side of the Force thing.
Right. And that's where things get really interesting because they're not just like, a new flavor of the dark side or something.
Yeah, they don't fit neatly into that light versus dark box.
No, not at all. It's something else entirely.
So where do we even start with this?
Well, the text really lays into both the Jedi and the Sith.
Oh yeah, it doesn't pull any punches.
No, it basically says they both screwed up so badly that the Force itself was out of balance.
And that this created the conditions for these Chaos Lords to like step in?
Exactly.
Okay, so the Jedi. What's the document's main beef with them?
It argues that their whole emotional suppression thing
Yeah.
backfired big time.
Like suppressing emotions seems like it should lead to peace, but
Right, but the document's saying it made them kind of rigid and dogmatic.
yeah, like they missed the point.
Exactly. And it claims they weren't really giving people like Anakin Skywalker the guidance they needed.
Right, like Anakin needed help with all that fear and anger.
Exactly. And the Jedi, with their whole emotionless doctrine,
Yeah.
they weren't equipped to deal with that.
And you have to wonder if that's partly what left him so vulnerable to Palpatine's manipulation.
Absolutely. I mean, that's a whole other can of worms.
Right.
Mm.
Okay, and what about the Sith? What does the document say about them?
Oh, it paints them as completely self-serving and obsessed with power.
Yeah, just driven by greed and ego.
Right. The text actually uses those exact words, greed and power-hungry delusions.
And that they basically caused constant chaos in their pursuit of domination.
Exactly.
So both sides are failed.
The Force itself is paying the price.
And that's where these Chaos Lords come in.
Right. With their chaos side of the Force.
Which they claim is the true balance.
Right.
So not light versus dark. It's like transcending that whole dichotomy.
Yeah, that's a key point. They're not picking a side. They're proposing something entirely new.
Okay, but what does that even look like in practice?
Well, the document throws us right into the deep end with Anakin Skywalker.
Right, when he's like right on the edge of becoming Darth Vader.
Yeah, totally manipulated by Palpatine, overwhelmed by expectations.
It's a total mess.
Right, and that's when Bugsy Prime makes his move.
And not physically.
No, this is a mental intervention.
Yeah.
Like straight into Anakin's mind.
Whoa.
Yeah, the text describes it as a clash of minds.
It's like a psychic battle.
Yeah, basically. Bugsy's trying to break through Palpatine's control and show Anakin what's really going on.
So imagine being Anakin in that moment. You're already all messed up, and then bam.
Yeah, it's described as like the sky itself cracked open in his mind.
So Bugsy's like, hey kid, wake up. This Palpatine guy is playing you. Your fear. He's feeding off that.
Exactly. But Anakin's so deep in his own anger and fear
Right.
that he's resisting.
So what does Bugsy do?
He starts showing Anakin visions of the future. Possible future?
Well, it's like a Jedi mind trick.
Not exactly. This is described as something way more intense and disturbing.
Okay, so what does Anakin see?
He sees himself becoming Darth Vader kneeling before Palpatine.
Ooh,
He sees his own son, Luke Skywalker, confronting him.
that must have been rough.
He sees the fate of Starkiller.
Yeah, I'd forgotten about Starkiller. He was a pawn, too.
Right. Totally manipulated and ultimately destroyed.
And then the big one.
Padme dying.
Yeah. And the text makes a point of saying her death could still be avoided at this point. So Bugsy is not holding back.
No, he's throwing everything at Anakin, trying to shake him out of it.
And this is where the language gets really interesting.
Oh, yeah.
Because when Bugsy's trying to get through to Anakin, he says,
Go on.
stop being a whiny bitch. Pull up your fucking nuts and listen.
Yeah.
Not your typical Jedi master.
Not at all. But the text suggests that this brutal honesty was exactly what Anakin needed.
Like a slap in the face.
Right. Something to cut through the bullshit.
And of course, Palpatine senses he's losing control.
Oh, yeah.
And he tries to fight back mentally.
But Bugsy just brushes him aside,
Like he's nothing.
basically.
And then we meet Bloody Duff.
Right.
And he doesn't mess around either.
No. He comes in hot.
I mean, his first words to Palpatine are,
Oh, yeah, this is a classic. You wrinkly son of a bitch, we're about to rock your fucking shit.
so subtle.
Yeah, they're not exactly known for their diplomacy.
But he also drops a bombshell. He says that the Chaos Lords have been around longer than the Jedi or the Sith.
Right, which is a huge claim.
Yeah, like what does that even mean?
It's not clear.
But it suggests there's something more primal.
Yeah, maybe even more fundamental to the Force itself.
Okay, so they gang up on Palpatine psychically.
Yeah, it's described as a violent explosion of chaos energy.
And this basically breaks him.
Right. Shatters his illusions, exposes his fears.
But they're not done yet.
No, their next target is the Jedi Council.
And they don't pull any punches there either.
No, Bugsy just straight up says you're all fired.
Talk about a performance review.
Yeah, no kidding.
So what happens?
Some Jedi try to resist.
Bad idea.
Yeah, Bugsy and Bloody Duff don't play by the Jedi rules.
They're operating on a whole other level.
Exactly. And the Jedi quickly learn that the hard way.
And with the Jedi Order gone, what happens next?
Well, they introduced this thing called chaos training.
Okay, so is this like Sith training but more chaotic?
Not exactly. The text suggests it's about embracing and mastering all emotions, not just rage and fear.
So like the opposite of what the Jedi were doing?
Exactly. Bloody Duff actually calls out the Jedi for stunting Anakin with their rigid rules.
So they're basically saying that the Jedi's approach to the Force was fundamentally flawed.
Yeah.
And of course, not all the Jedi are happy about this.
No, there's some pushback.
And how do they deal with that?
Well, there's this one scene where a Jedi Master starts protesting,
Uh-oh.
and Bugsy just shuts him down with a metal attack.
Ouch.
Yeah, and he says, keep talking. I can melt your brain faster if you can say lightsaber.
That's gotta hurt.
Yeah, it's a pretty clear message.
The old ways are over.
Exactly. Adapt or die.
So the Jedi are out.
Right.
But what about the Sith?
Well, they see an opportunity in all this chaos,
Naturally.
and they try to make a comeback.
But it doesn't go well for them.
Yes. Bugsy hits him with another mental blast. He calls it salvo number 2.
And this one's even worse than the first.
Oh, yeah.
What happens?
It basically forces them to see reality, to face the fact that they've been caught up in a power struggle that's not really about good versus evil.
It's about balance.
Right.
And they're way out of balance.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So what happens to them?
They're given a choice. Learn the chaos side or get left behind.
And they actually go for it.
Some do.
So now you have former Sith learning from the Chaos Lords.
Right. It's a whole new world.
Okay. But there's one more thing we need to talk about.
What's that?
The kids.
Oh, right. The kids that Palpatine had been kidnapping.
Yeah. What happens to them?
Bugsy and Bloody Duff free them.
No strings attached?
Well, they tell them they can just be.
Interesting.
But they also offer them the chance to learn the chaos side.
So it's like they're giving them a real choice.
Right. Not forcing them into any particular path.
So let's recap. What's the state of the galaxy after all this?
Well, the Jedi are disbanded, the Sith are reformed, and the Force is supposedly balanced.
Supposedly.
Well, the text acknowledges that not everyone's on board with this new way.
Right. Like some Sith are still resisting.
But the Chaos Lords are pretty clear about their message. The Chaos side is here to stay.
Yeah.
I mean, Bugsy basically says, get used to the new galaxy, motherfuckers. This is the future.
And Bloody Duff just wants to know, anyone got a drink?
Yeah. They're an interesting pair.
No kidding.
So this document, it's basically saying that the whole galaxy got flipped on its head.
Yeah, totally. It all happened so fast.
And now we have these Chaos Lords calling the shots.
Who operate outside the traditional rules of the Force.
Right. So the question is, what happens next? What does a galaxy run by the Chaos side actually look like?
That's the million credit question.
Yeah, because if this balance isn't about light versus dark, then what is it?
And how does that play out in the long run?
It's definitely something to think about.
Absolutely.
Well, that's our deep dive into the rise of the Chaos Lords.
Quite the document.
Yeah, thanks for joining us.
Until next time.
And may the chaos be with you.
I don't even know what that means.
Me neither.